Amara Quinn wiped down the counter for the third time that evening, her eyes scanning the crowded restaurant. She was good at her job, quick on her feet, and fiercely proud of earning her own way, but she was tired. Tired of small tips, rude customers, and the endless cycle of surviving paycheck to paycheck. Then he walked in. Junho Kong. Tall, impeccably dressed, with sharp features that could cut glass. There was a chill in the air around him, like winter had followed him through the door, but his eyes, dark, calculating, and impossible to ignore, found hers immediately. He approached, moving with a predator's grace, yet something in his manner made her heart race, not with fear but curiosity. Amara Quinn? His voice was low, smooth, commanding. I've been looking for someone like you. She froze. Her name, spoken by a man she didn't know, felt intimate and dangerous all at once. I don't think she started, but he held up a hand, flashing a perfectly polite smile. Relax, he said. I'm not here to trouble you. I have a proposition. One you can't refuse. Come work for me. Full pay. No questions. No inappropriate touches. Amara narrowed her eyes. And why would a Korean mafia boss want me? His smile widened, almost charming. Because you're smart, observant, alive. Most people just follow orders. You notice. You understand. That's rare. She hesitated, skepticism warring with the possibility of opportunity. The pay he offered could cover rent, tuition, everything she'd been struggling to manage. But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of something unspoken, that sent a shiver down her spine. I don't know, she said, testing her courage. He leaned in slightly, his gaze intense but strangely gentle. I promise not to touch you. Just trust me. Come work for me. One chance. Amara stared at him, every instinct screaming caution. But a tiny reckless part of her, the part that dreamed of a life bigger than waiting tables, wanted to say yes. And in that moment, she didn't know she was stepping into a world where promises were meant to be broken. Amara arrived at the address Junho had given her, heart pounding. The building loomed like a fortress, sleek glass and steel reflecting the city lights. She hesitated for a moment, then reminded herself, she needed this. She needed the opportunity no matter how unnerving it felt. Inside, the lobby was immaculate, quiet, and sterile. Security cameras followed her every step, and a sharply dressed doorman gave her a nod of recognition she didn't understand. Junho appeared from a private elevator, immaculately dressed as always. His expression was calm, almost unreadable, but his eyes, those intense, dark eyes, pierced straight through her. Welcome, he said smoothly. I hope the journey wasn't intimidating. Amara swallowed her nerves. It was fine. He led her through a series of hallways into a sprawling penthouse office. Expensive art lined the walls, and the city skyline stretched infinitely beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Every detail screamed wealth, power, danger. This will be your workspace, he said, gesturing to a sleek desk with a chair. You'll handle communications, scheduling, and some private errands. Nothing dangerous. I promise. Amara nodded, but unease prickled at the back of her neck. Something about the way the staff moved, silent, precise, alert, made her skin crawl. They weren't just employees. They were protectors. Or enforcers. As she settled in, Junho observed quietly, a faint smirk tugging at his lips when she tried to hide her nerves. Relax, he said, leaning against the desk. I expect efficiency and discretion. Beyond that, you're safe. Safe. The word felt empty coming from him. Amara reminded herself why she was here. The money, the opportunity, the chance to step into a life she'd only imagined. Still, every instinct told her to be cautious. By the end of her first day, she had noticed the little things. The controlled atmosphere, the subtle tension in Junho's gaze, the way he watched her without asking, the way the staff subtly shifted around him. Amara Quinn had walked into a world of power, luxury, and danger. And she knew deep down that this was just the beginning. Amara thought she had seen the full extent of Junho's world, but each day revealed more layers, luxury wrapped around shadows. He gave her tasks that seemed simple at first. Organizing documents, sending messages, running errands. But slowly the errands became personal, fetching items from private rooms, staying late to assist him. Each time he promised it was harmless, that boundaries would be respected. Yet every promise felt stretched. One evening, as she handed him a folder, he brushed her hand lightly. Amara flinched, but he only smiled, claiming, accidents happen. Later, she overheard a conversation she wasn't meant to hear, Junho arranging something in the background, a meeting about her. Her pulse quickened. How much did he truly care about her safety? Despite the unease, Amara couldn't deny the pull. His presence was intoxicating, danger wrapped in charm. Even when she wanted to resist, she found herself lingering near him, drawn to the mystery, the intensity in his gaze. She began to question herself. Was she imagining the lies? Or was this just the first crack in the facade? Vanessa's warning echoed in her mind. Some men don't play fair, Amara. Especially ones who seem too perfect. By the end of the day, Amara realized she had stepped deeper than she intended. Junho's promises were fragile. And in his world, boundaries could shatter in an instant. Her instincts screamed caution, but part of her was already trapped in his orbit, unable to look away. Amara never imagined her first real glimpse into Junho's world would feel like stepping into a storm. That night, she followed him to a private meeting. The room smelled of cigars and leather. Men in sharp suits circled him, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. The air was thick with power and threat. Amara realized quickly, she was the only outsider. Every glance from those men carried warning. Every subtle nod toward her felt like a test. "Stay close," Junho murmured, his voice low and protective, but there was something possessive in it that made her stomach twist. She watched as Junho negotiated, firm, ruthless, cold. One wrong move from anyone in the room could have ended in violence. She shivered, suddenly aware of how exposed she was. Back at her apartment, Amara couldn't shake the tension. She called Vanessa, trying to mask her fear. I didn't know he was like this," she whispered. Vanessa's voice was sharp. "Amara, you're in deep. This isn't just a rich man with charm. It's a whole dangerous world. Be careful." The next day, Detective Marcus Reed appeared unexpectedly at the restaurant, asking questions about Junho. Amara's heart raced. Was he trying to protect her, or was he suspicious of her involvement? By the evening, Amara knew two things with terrifying clarity. Junho was more dangerous than she imagined, and she was already in the eye of his storm. No longer was this just a job. She had become a player in a world where trust was rare, promises were fragile, and danger could strike at any moment. Amara tried to focus on her tasks, but it was impossible to ignore Junho. Every time he entered the room, her pulse raced, and her mind scrambled to stay professional. He seemed to sense her inner struggle, leaning just slightly closer than necessary, his gaze lingering a second too long. "You're good at noticing details," he said one afternoon, his tone casual, but it carried an intensity that made her knees weak. Amara clenched her jaw. She reminded herself, he was dangerous, a man who played by his own rules. Attraction was a luxury she could not afford. Yet she felt it growing, against her will, against every warning from Vanessa, who had been blunt. "Amara, you're walking into fire. Don't get burned." Despite her resolve, small moments tested her. A hand brushing against hers, accidentally. A private conversation where he watched her with unreadable intent. Even the way he protected her from minor annoyances made her heart betray her caution. The tension became unbearable when a rival Mafia figure appeared near the office. Junho's protective instincts flared, and he positioned himself between Amara and danger. His strength, his control, and the raw power he exuded made her both terrified and inexplicably drawn to him. That night, lying in her apartment, Amara's mind replayed every glance, every touch, every unspoken word. She knew she was dancing on the edge of something forbidden, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to step back. But one thing was clear, Junho was not a man to be underestimated, and her heart, stubborn as it was, might just be the one thing that could undo her. Amara had thought she could control her feelings, that she could maintain distance. But Junho made it impossible. That evening he asked her to stay late to organize documents in his private office. The penthouse was quiet, the city lights casting long shadows across the marble floors. "Amara," he said softly, his voice low and commanding, "you shouldn't be here alone. Let me help." Before she could respond, his hand brushed her arm, not by accident this time. A jolt of electricity ran through her, and she pulled back instinctively. "I said I'd keep my promises," he murmured, almost apologetic, almost playful. But the smirk tugging at his lips told her otherwise. Her chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to run. Yet part of her, the part she hated, was drawn to him, to the danger he represented. Then came the warning. A rival Mafia enforcer appeared unexpectedly in the hall, seeking to deliver a message. Amara was no longer just a bystander. She was involved whether she liked it or not. Junho reacted instantly, placing himself between her and the threat. His protective stance, the sheer dominance in his movements, made her pulse race for reasons she didn't want to admit. By the time the enforcer left, Amara realized something frightening. Junho had broken the promise he made, and she had felt something at the same time. Conflicted, terrified, and, against every warning, drawn to him. She had crossed a line too. And now, she had no choice but to navigate a world where danger, desire, and deception were dangerously intertwined. Amara couldn't sleep. Thoughts of Junho's piercing gaze and the dangerous world he inhabited swirled in her mind. She knew she was entangled in something far bigger than she imagined. Curiosity overpowered caution. She began searching through documents left on his desk, small slips of paper, encrypted files, anything that could explain who he truly was. What she discovered shocked her. Hidden accounts, coded communications, and a network of operations that revealed the full scope of his criminal empire. Junho wasn't just a wealthy man, he was the ice tiger, feared and untouchable in the underworld. Her heart raced and panic rose. He had lied to her from the beginning. Every promise of safety, every claim of professionalism was a mask. That afternoon she confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me who you really are?" she demanded, her voice trembling with anger and fear. Junho studied her silently, his expression unreadable. Then, for the first time, he allowed a hint of vulnerability to slip through. "Because I wanted you to see me, without fear first," he admitted, his voice low, almost sincere. Amara's chest tightened. "This obsession you have, it's dangerous. And I don't know if I can trust it." His dark eyes softened briefly. "I can't control the world I live in. But I can protect you, in ways no one else can. You need to decide if you're strong enough to stay." Amara realized she was standing at a crossroads. She could run and reclaim safety, or stay and face the darkness of a man who wanted her, controlled her, and yet, strangely, respected her more than anyone else ever had. And in that moment she knew, nothing in her life would ever be the same. Amara felt trapped between two worlds. Junho's empire was dangerous, thrilling, and intoxicating, but it came with rules she didn't understand and risks she couldn't ignore. Detective Marcus Reed appeared at her apartment that evening, concern etched across his face. "Amara, you're in over your head. You have to choose him or your safety," he warned. His words carried weight, his presence both comforting and frustrating. That night, Junho appeared at her door, calm but intense. "You have a choice," he said. "Leave and I will let you go. Stay and you live with me, in my world." Amara's heart pounded. She realized this was no longer about attraction or curiosity, it was survival, desire, and trust all tangled together. "I can't just stay blind to what you are," she said, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her stomach. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I am dangerous," he admitted, his hand brushing hers. "But I cannot let you walk away. Not now. Not ever." Amara's chest tightened as conflicting emotions surged. Marcus's warning echoed in her mind, but Junho's dark intensity, his obsession, and the way he protected her pulled her in with irresistible force. By the end of the night, she knew she had to make a decision. She could leave, reclaim her independence, and step back into safety. Or she could stay, risk everything, and explore the dangerous, thrilling pull she felt toward the man who had promised not to touch her, but had already broken every promise. The choice would define her future, and perhaps the future of the dangerous man who had claimed a piece of her heart. Amara didn't expect danger to strike so soon, but it did. A rival Mafia faction had discovered her connection to Junho, and now she was a target. She felt it before she saw it. A presence in the shadows, a subtle shift in the air. Her heart raced as she ducked behind a parked car, realizing how vulnerable she truly was. Junho appeared like a shadow himself, moving with precision, cutting through the threat. His protective instincts were ruthless, and yet she saw something deeper, fear for her safety, obsession wrapped in something almost like love. The rival enforcer advanced, and Amara's instincts kicked in. Using quick thinking, she maneuvered him into a trap she'd glimpsed in Junho's earlier strategies. Within moments, the threat was neutralized. Junho studied her with awe, a rare smile breaking his normally stoic demeanor. "You were incredible," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I never expected you to be that clever." Amara felt a mix of triumph and exhaustion. For the first time she realized she wasn't just a pawn in his world. She could play and survive too. Detective Marcus arrived moments later, securing the scene. His eyes softened as he looked at her. "You're lucky, and brave. But this isn't over." Junho stepped forward, tension radiating from him. "No one touches you. Not now. Not ever," he vowed, his voice low and possessive. Amara felt the weight of his obsession, the danger, and her own feelings converge. She had survived, but she knew that surviving meant walking a razor's edge, balancing desire, trust, and danger in a world where nothing was guaranteed. And yet, despite everything, part of her didn't want to step away. The city was quiet, but Amara knew it was the calm before the storm. The rival faction wasn't finished, and Junho's empire was a powder keg. She met him in the penthouse one last time, the skyline glowing behind him. His dark eyes were unreadable, yet his presence filled the room like a force of nature. "You could leave," he said softly, almost pleading. "Walk away and reclaim your life. I won't stop you." Amara's heart ached. She had grown to care, for the man, for his world, for the dangerous thrill of being part of something bigger than herself. But independence and survival had always been her rules. "I can't let you control me," she said, steadying her voice. "Not even you." Junho's jaw tightened, but there was a flicker of respect in his eyes. "Then stay by choice," he said, his tone dark yet tender. "Not out of fear. Not out of obligation. Stay because you want to." The final confrontation came suddenly. Rival enforcers stormed the penthouse, but Amara, now confident and cunning, anticipated their moves. With Junho by her side, she navigated the chaos, proving she was no longer a bystander. Together they neutralized the threat. After the danger passed, the room was quiet, the only sound their shared breaths. Junho stepped closer, his usual intensity softened by a rare vulnerability. "You're free," he said. "But if you choose me, you'll be by my side fully." Amara studied him, feeling the fire of desire, danger, and respect collide. Slowly she nodded. "I choose to stay." It wasn't submission. It wasn't weakness. It was choice. And in that choice, Amara found freedom. Freedom in desire, in power, and in the dangerous, irresistible love of the man who had promised not to touch her, and yet had changed her life forever.